Today, we're talking about hybrid mana. Good morning, Magic. I'm Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast. And recently, I talked a bit about how we were potentially looking at a change to how hybrid mana worked in Commander, to have it be looked at as an or rather than an and strictly for deck building. So you could include Kitchen Finks in your mono white deck, for example, where right now you can't. For more on this, you can check out my video covering the recent Commander updates. This has caused plenty of discussion, so today I thought I'd come in and give my thoughts. Before I do so, I should say that while I am on the Commander format panel and I do often speak for that group, this time around I'm speaking for myself, and this doesn't represent the whole Commander format panel. There are plenty of thoughts and opinions there, and I don't want to speak for anybody else on it. Okay, so with that said, I want to start with a few popular notes I've seen online, and then I'll talk about the actual change in question. The first is that this is Wizards trying to push a change through against the will of the majority, now that Wizards technically controls the format. I want to start by saying that that is absolutely not the case, and not at all how I want this relationship to work as the liaison between the two groups. I'll give a great example. During the Commander Summit we had, where the CFB came out and met with Wizards for 3 days, another topic we discussed was allowing all Planeswalkers to be commanders. Many people at Wizards were excited about this as a possibility. The format panel pretty much near unanimously did not want that and made a lot of really great points. And while they were generally fine with individual Planeswalkers that were tested to be commanders that have the line on them, like Nahiri or Jeska, they strongly pushed back against the idea of all Planeswalkers being allowed as commanders. And we at Wizards intend to listen to that, which is why we aren't talking about Planeswalkers as commanders as a topic with you all right now. In the case of the hybrid discussion, while it was not unanimous, more were for making the change than against it. We wanted to bring it up to the community precisely because it was something we wanted more opinions and thoughts on. So, thanks for providing them, and I look forward to reading yours after you've watched the video in the comments down below. The second is that this is somehow time to push Lorwyn cards or something similar to that. That's really not the case. It's just the timing of when we had the group out here and then when we next talk to you all. There is plenty of hybrid in upcoming sets, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But also, transparently, I don't believe that hybrid suddenly being more widely applicable in Commander so more people can play a card like Emptiness is really going to meaningfully move the needle on the popularity of a set like Lorwyn, which I'm pretty sure is going to be really popular. The vast majority of hybrid in upcoming sets are just like neat uncommon cards. And the third note I've seen echoed online a bunch is that this is some change that just Mark Rosewater wants. I think this is something that happens a lot with what we talk about here at Wizards, because Mark tends to be the person you hear the most from. And while it's true that he is passionate about the topic and is the person who presented it to the Commander format panel, he pretty much is just representing all of Magic Design here. Across Magic Design and the Commander Magic Design team, it is widely the common opinion that hybrid should work differently in Commander. And that's in part why I wanted to come and talk with you about this today too. It's not just Mark, it's a lot of us. Okay, so now let's get into this change and how I see it playing out with some advantages and disadvantages. So hybrid is a mechanic designed in such a way to open up what decks a card can be played in. A green and white hybrid card can be cast in a green deck or a white one. In Commander, that's not how it works, and this would allow for that to work. But you already knew that part. Let me speak about what making these cards looks like right now. When we design a Magic card, it has to fit the color pie requirements of that color. Red can't remove enchantments, and black can't remove artifacts, for example. That kind of thing. There are some color pie breaks in Magic that will live with us forever, like Chaos Warp, so we have a lot of processes in place now to prevent that from happening. We have a whole Council of Colors that reviews every upcoming card in every color to make sure it fits the color pie, for example. So when we make hybrid cards today, we have to obey the color pie requirements of both colors. For example, with a card like Moonrise Cleric, that's something that either mono white or mono black could get. But this card couldn't be, say, blue-white or red-white hybrid because red and blue can't gain life. There are some old exceptions to this with hybrid because when we introduced hybrid early on, we made a couple mistakes, like Augury Adept. Hey, white can't draw cards on combat damage and blue can't gain life. That was just a mistake. But we are pretty careful to not do that anymore, and there are just a couple cards like that. Just like Chaos Warp, those cards will always exist. In any case, allowing for hybrid won't start making upcoming cards defray what colors decks are about, or make a deck some kind of soup. Hybrid cards very much have to obey what the colors already do. Now, hybrid is a great tool in our design tool belt because it provides a lot of flexibility in deck building. While it was introduced in Ravnica in 2005 and we've used it here and there for a while, it is true that we are using hybrid more and more, especially at lower rarities. It really is helpful for draft as you create cards that can cross archetypes and be simple staple effects. You're going to start seeing it more on Signpost and Commons. You're seeing the start of this in Avatar: The Last Airbender, where at uncommon you get a gold multicolored card and a hybrid card of each color pair. It's a great way to make sure that cards can point you toward an archetype without being siloed only into that deck. So the gold uncommon is for when you're really cemented and locked to just those cards, while the hybrid card, often double pipped, is something flexible you can take early and is best in that archetype, but can also be fine in a variety of decks. Avatar uses this new model, but you'll be seeing many more sets with it in the future. Some of these are workhorse cards that would be nice tools for commander decks to have access to. So this brings me to the advantages that are easy to see from hybrid mana. You can put them in your decks easier, giving your cards more utility. It uniquely helps out monocolor strategies, giving them some nice additional tools instead of requiring you play more colors to get access to those tools. One of the strongest things you can do in Commander is play more colors, and we hear all the time that players want fewer color decks to be more viable. So as 3 or more color decks in Legends become more and more what people gravitate toward in the format, cards that can support 1 and 2 color play nicely are really great to have around. I do think that a lot of the advantages to be able to play more cards are fairly easy to understand and pinpoint, and you've probably thought about them already, so I'm not going to go on too long about that. I think what is far more interesting to talk about are the advantages you don't necessarily see. As a Magic designer, we have to think about not just what is reality right now, but what could exist in the future. And there are a number of things that access to hybrid can help with. There have been times in the past where it would have helped us and we had to make a decision that was worse because we didn't have access to it as a tool. I'll give a real example here as just one of many. When we were working on the first Commander Legends, we were trying to solve how drafting Commander could work, and we had a big snag. It was so hard to pivot colors. If you picked a 2-color legend, it really locked you into those 2 colors, and you couldn't easily change. One thing we came up with that would have been a huge help to draft were hybrid legends. That way, you could take a hybrid blue and white legend and be able to use it in a blue deck, a white deck, or be a commander of a blue-white deck. This would have given you a lot of options for commanders during the draft and allow you to move around colors more easily. However, since that wasn't on the table, we ended up going up with our other best option, partner. And while it did mostly work for limited, bringing 40 new partners, possibly the strongest commander mechanic of all time since it gives you 2 commanders, was a huge risk. Several of those cards have ended up breaking or becoming best-in-class commanders over time. It would have been really great to have hybrid as a tool for making that set and future Commander Legend style sets work. Our goal is not to flood the world with strong Commander hybrid cards, but to have another tool to help us when making our sets. I do think it's important to acknowledge some of the concerns, too, so I want to talk about a handful of things I've heard people discussing and my thoughts on them. The first is that it makes Commander more complicated to learn. You now have to explain this as a weird exception. And I'll answer that with, that's tough to argue one way or another. I totally see the argument of it's one more thing to explain. I've also heard plenty of stories about people including ineligible hybrid cards in their commander decks thinking it already works when it doesn't. All the evidence we have shows that people can see it both ways. There isn't a clear one way is easier than the other. I will say this, right now the experience if you get it wrong is you're told your deck is illegal and you have to change it. In this theoretical world, if you get it wrong, well, it just means you didn't put a card in your deck. There's no mid-game, hey, your deck is illegal. I prefer the second reality to the first. I do know that some point to how it's much easier to explain color identity as simply that color can't show up in your deck, and how this muddies the color identity rule. I appreciate that point, as I do think color identity is very critical to Commander. I also think that color identity in Commander already has tons of exceptions you have to explain. Flooded Strand and Urborg can go in any deck. Cards make off-color tokens all the time. Reminder text doesn't count, so extort cards can go in white or black decks. Allowing hybrid to work the way it's designed for, and already matches some player intuition, seems well within bounds of what works in this format. Another concern is that it's a slippery slope. For example, should this allow Phyrexian mana to go in any deck? I totally get the questions, and I'll be the first to say that it's important to preserve color identity and not fall down that slope. But these are different situations. Let's start by setting aside that Phyrexian mana instead of colored mana in cards was a mistake, and I wouldn't expect us to do more of that anytime soon, as opposed to hybrid, which we use all the time. That doesn't matter for the philosophy part of this. What does matter for the philosophy is that Phyrexian mana is a specific color, and you can circumvent it by paying life. It says, I am this color, but you can get around having any color requirements by paying life instead. It is all about cheating color requirements. Hybrid is different. It's specifically not about cheating colors because it requires one of 2 different colors and the card's mechanics have to fit within both of them. Phyrexian mana gives any color access to dealing damage, cloning, or -5/-5. Hybrid does not. Given that, what about 2 Brid cards and cards like Advice from the Fae and Ulalek? I'll admit that I am much more concerned with where cards of 2 hybrid colors go and how those play out in Commander. I think a lot of people in the past couple weeks have pushed against this, saying it feels weird that any deck could play cards like this. I think those notes have been reasonable and fall more in line with the concerns of giving every color an effect. In any case, hopefully after watching this, you now feel more like you know about where we're coming from and what might happen. Ultimately, I and we are very interested in what the community wants. And right now, from all the metrics we're seeing, there's plenty of people who feel both ways. So it's really not an easy decision, and your feedback is really helpful. So please feel free to drop a comment below with your thoughts. Whether they're short thoughts or long thoughts, I'll be reading them. I'll talk with you all again soon. And until then, have fun building decks. And remember, you got this. One is high mana value cards. If you're spending tons of mana on something in Commander, it's going to be strong. We want to keep the focus on cards that can change the game in the earlier turns, where it can be most frustrating to have somebody run away with the game before people have been able to develop. Two, legends that are just powerful commanders. The easiest thing to opt out of is someone's commander. If someone's